Joining us for this week's edition of The Informed is our citizen, Jack Curran, the independent member for Mulgrave, Ian Cook, and security consultant and author of the wonderful book, Blood-Soaked Soil, Mario Beeks. And I've got a confession to make. I've become one of them. I've put my hand up to run as an independent candidate for the seat of Eureka in Melbourne's West. So from now on, all comments and views must be coloured with the assumption that, you know, I'm pushing my own cart here. So welcome, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
Now, there's been a lot said, and Ian's been quite vocal about it, and I have to agree with him about the changes that the Andrews government made to the Electoral Act in 2018, whether it was unwittingly or purposeful. That really seems to have made it hard for independents such as Ian and myself to actually have a fair dip. So we'll open up with you, Ian. How have you found it now as an independent candidate, trying to get around the pretty rigid rules and regulations that are in place?
Yeah, well, that's interesting. Just saying get around, right? If you read the Act, it says if you do anything that they deem to be a scheme to get around the donation laws, then you can go to jail for 10 years. So this Act has been written, and then if you accept a donation that's, you know, a couple of dollars over the limit, then they double whatever that amount is, and that's the fine. So yes, it's very tough, and they are what you would say draconian laws. But here's the deal. If you made a set of rules and you apply them to everyone, then that's fine. I'm happy to live by that. The point that I keep making is these rules were made and they effectively make it much harder for independents than parties. But the party who benefits the most out of these new rules is the Labor Party, because anybody who is not associate, what do they call it? Anybody who is part of a party and has voting rights in a party is exempt from the rules. So let's put that in layman's terms. You and I, Michael, you have a soccer team, I have a soccer team. You say to me, Ian, the rules are you can only use your feet. If you use your hands, it's a free kick. Okay, you got the rules? All right, the rules apply to everyone except your team. I mean, it is just cheating. And anyone who's read the Herald Sun this morning, more cheating coming out. They haven't, I think Sharon Deary wrote an article. They appear to be running a, what do they call it? A survey to elderly people. And that survey is an ad there's an ad for the Labor Party in the middle of it in a video clip, and there's no authorization, amongst other things. So
it's an incentive as well, isn't there, Ian, of $5 gift voucher?
$5. Yep, if you fill out a survey, and you can't go back in the survey. I mean, there's a whole lot of things that make it look like just political advertising, and one might argue that it's a scheme. However, I'll guarantee that the VEC hasn't gone back into Labor Party officials and said, hang on, you've got to change this, or we're investigating you. Because you can guarantee if you or I did that, they'd be onto us like a shot.
Yeah. Jack, you know, it's the man in the street who consumes media from a wide source. So not Murdoch, not Fairfax, but, you know, it has a pretty, not partisan view, but a spread view. How are you seeing this play out?
For me, look, I'm backing all the individuals, like I said before, because the individuals or the dependents that are going as individuals up against these parties. I'd go back one question to the Constitution. Let's look at the Constitution and look at whether a party is legal to be formed and voted for. So that's one question I'd like to put out to the audience. Is it constitutional? Because there's, and also the preferences. I'd like to also ask about the preferences because they're convoluted and all the rest of it. And they're just like snakes and ladders, literally, in terms of how and who you vote for and where my vote ends up. There should be one vote for one person and no preferences. So from the people on the street or people like myself, we just want to clear it all up to make sure that one vote goes for Michael and it stays for Michael. So that's what, or whether it's for Ian, rather than giving these preferences and they just get muddled up in the water. So it's a constitutional question that I want to ask and put out to your audience. Is it legal to have a party, or is it legal to have an individual when you're voting for one person? I'll just put it out there.
Yeah. And Mario, with your experience coming from proper communist, proper dictatorship, real world experience, not, a lot of the words that are thrown around today, how does this gel with your experience from your previous life?
Look, I would say like it's a same modus operandi, right? You're forcing the other opposition, in this instance, like yourself and the Ian, to comply by the laws and legislations, whatever they put there ahead, because they're funneling you into the only one platform where you don't need to spend the money. Let's go to social media, and that's why they try to control narrative on social media. They don't love the finances. I mean, it's equally was in communism. Like, you have the opposition. Yes, you can be opposition, but you can do only certain things because that's the way we can control this one. And also, like, I want to congratulate yourself, Michael, and you, Ian, for the bravery and courage to stand up, in front of the voting body and the citizens in your electoral area to represent them. And as I say, the Daniel Andrews, as far as I'm concerned, the only way he can win this is like literally playing by the things you cannot play. And that's what it is, squashing your finances, making people around you to go on social media where he's going to utilize taxpayers' money to annihilate you guys. So it's equally same, like Ceausescu, same thing.
Now, the VEC has been great with my limited experience, getting in touch with them, explaining things to me. But as Ian previously said, the onerous threat hanging over you should you do something wrong is quite intimidating. We have 21 days to declare any donations over $54. But as Ian mentioned, if you're an associate or you have an entity with the party, a lot of this stuff goes away. The most we're allowed to get is just over $4,000 in any 4-year term. But the major parties started with a massive advantage. They also get administration fees to do it. The few donations, thank you, Mario, and some of the others that have come in for my my tilt at Eureka, just sitting there doing the administration, right? It's in, it's declared. Now I've got to send it out to those who have donated over the $54 limit, and they have to then also fill in to say, yes, it was me that did this. How are you finding it, Ian? Because I hear on the grapevine, you've been fairly well supported.
Yeah, I must admit it's quite humbling. We've had literally hundreds of donations. So I'll just pick you up on one thing. Any donation under $1,080, you don't need the names and addresses, right? But what you can't get is $1,079.99, but one person can't give you 4 of those and say, thanks. So we've actually gone back to a couple of people who, we had a couple, like a few people have given us $1,000 donation. And there's a few people who've spoken to us and said they don't want to be on a public list, which is what happens because they don't trust this government and they particularly don't trust Daniel Andrews. So if they're on a list, then it says, oh, you supported him or you supported them, whatever it might be. Now, on that, we had a husband and wife. So we got a transaction that came from the same account twice with an email address that was the same. So we had to go back and say, if this is a $2,000 donation, which is what it looked like, then you need to give us your name and address. And the guy said, we had his email, and the guy said, no, there's 1,000 from me. My name is Fred Nurk, and my wife is Marilyn Nurk. So they gave $1,000 each. That's fine. But we have Anthony, my brother, who's an accountant, doing it full time, just ticking off, checking. Emily, who's working with us, she's doing the same. She checks every donation as they come in. Now, and we're talking about hundreds. We've had, we must be up to 500 or 600 donations and over $130,000. It's, and that, when you consider that's from scratch, and we had problems getting our website up. There were some gremlins in it and it wouldn't accept donations and things, and people were getting a little bit cranky trying to donate but couldn't. But there is a huge groundswell of support of people who do not want Daniel Andrews to be Premier after the 26th of November. And they're putting their money where their mouth is.
And you were saying off air in the volunteers, which is such an important part of any independent campaign, people to man those pre-polling and to get out and push a message. You're saying that's going really well as well.
Yeah, it is. We've got about 300 people who know these things better than me. I mean, I've never even aspired to be a politician, but I am where I am. But they tell me that, you know, some of those will, you know, can only do one day, this day, whatever. And so we're saying the more the merrier. You know, and even anyone listening to this, if they want to go on to our website and become a volunteer, we've got a couple of people who are going to be organising that side of it. There's going to be, I think there's 30 polling booths around here in this electorate. We need to man that with people with how to vote cards. We have to man the pre-poll. So yes, you need a lot of people to make this happen. So I can see why it's a tough gig for any independent. And then on top of that, to have your funding restricted so badly, that's terrible. You think about it, Michael, you might have one person in one or two people in your electorate that would have liked to have said, here's 25 grand for your printing and get it all out because we want to see a fair election. Well, so what? It doesn't mean you're owned by them. Anyway, yeah, if we get in, or when we get in, which I'm told is might look good, is we need to change that.
Yep. Now,
and if you got in, Michael, we can be the balance of power. How good would that be?
I'd love to sit on the crossbench with you. It doesn't sound comfortable. I like some sort of recliner at my age, but crossbench will do. Now, two things that were mentioned both by Ian and by yourself, Jack, is the preferential voting system. And Victoria is the last one in the upper house to have this group voting ticket. Who would have guessed that before the last election it was mooted that it needed to be changed, but somehow Labor said it would be too involved and too much of an ask to get it done before this election. Now, for those that don't know, with this group voting ticket for the upper house, your vote becomes the parties to do with what they want. So the way I like to try and explain preferential voting system is, which isn't a bad system because it means your vote goes somewhere. So picture you walk into a restaurant and you look at the menu and say, great, give me the steak. And the waiter says, I'm sorry, we don't have any steak. Oh, okay, well, give me the schnitzel. Sorry, we've just sold out of the schnitzel. Well, can I have the chips? And the waiter says, we have the chips, but they come with a side of sauce and the side of sauce. So that might be a party where you go, I agree with the party on one of their major policies, but not with some of their other issues. And a lot of campaigns or elections will come down to a single issue. I've been a swinging voter where I've gone, you know what, I can accept the harm that might be done in one area because something like marriage equality was really important to me. So I would switch just to get that big issue through. But with the preferential, with the group voting ticket, it's basically you walk into that restaurant, you look at that menu and say, give me the steak. And the waiter says, yep. And out comes a shit sandwich. And you go, but I didn't order that. While the chef thought you would like that because we didn't have steak. How is that right in any sphere? Mario, bring back communist memories of, you know, some of the elections?
Yeah, look at elections and the so-called elections, you know, was always professional candidates and, you know, somehow they always won regardless of the corruption and everything else. What I don't understand, the point in Victoria, people trying to make it democratic elections where you are suppressing other parties' independence. And again, I say like Ian and yourself, is a true definition of the courage. I truly admire what you guys doing. With so little, you can do it. And that actually shows the power. Like that was in communism. Communism was always afraid that people were going to see through their lies. And the same goes for Daniel Andrews. You know, he's portraying himself as a savior. You know, he's going to restrict the funds for you guys and so on and so on. But a voting body, it cannot be stopped. You know, I mean, that's we want in communism. That's you guys as well. People thinking behind closed doors. There's no, you can't create a sentiment behind closed doors what the people talk, as a Jack says, on the street what the people are articulating and everything else. So I said, like, you know, it's difficult to me comprehend that this is happening in Australia. In Australia, that is a possible that country who's glorifying for democracy, you have the one premier try to suppress everybody possibility to get in elections, but actually that speaks the volume. He's afraid of you guys. He's afraid of you. It's a different generation of independent candidates, uncorruptible, yourself and Ian.
Can I just add to that, to the confusion, right? So even in the last election, right, you've got all these numbers above, below. It's so confusing, right? I have a bit of an education. My parents didn't, right? So the person that has second language as English is very hard. I mean, it's very hard and you know, Melbourne is multicultural, and there's many people that don't speak the language, the English language, or understand who's who in the zoo in terms of politics. Yeah. Now, when you confuse the person, they just go, I'll just make it easier. I'll just do red or blue, red or blue, red or blue. That's as far as it gets. So my thing is make it simple for the person that has the second language as English. Make it simple for them, make it simple for me, because, you know, I've got an education and it's just like, all right, I've got to do a degree on this, so I know who to vote for.
Yep. And
I think
we've had our political editor, Anka Sahin, who's also an immigration lawyer. And one of the points I raised with him is in our citizenship test, the voting system isn't an integral part. So as you just mentioned, Jack, a lot of new arrivals, a lot of people who speak English as a second language, a lot of their voices aren't actually heard. And I honestly believe that our electoral system, and it's diverse over, it's spread over states, needs to be ratified and unified across the nation. State by state needs to be federalized and accepted, and it needs to be part of that citizenship test so that everyone has their voice heard and counted and understood. Because until I got involved in this journalism gig, a lot of it wasn't clear to me. And then when you see behind the curtain and you see the little man behind the green curtain and what appears to be democratic, you know, it's pretty shonky, isn't it, Ian?
I agree with you, Michael. You know, like I was one of these recipients of citizenship. Even I was believing that I'm not worthy of this one because I'm just a guy who come overseas, and citizenship is reserved for people who are born here. But you're absolutely spot on. Nobody talks about political parties here. Nobody talks about elections, how they're conducted, and in a way how they should be conducted. Particularly, and Jack is a spot on. Is a ALP, LNP, right? That's where it's red and blue. And even today, you know, I mean, even, you know, I'm the member of a different party. You know, when I see the red, that's like, okay, that's a commies, you know, I mean, that's a unions, that's a labor, because that's how I associate them. And Jack was spot on. A lot of people, they don't know because they're not explained properly. And remember these guys, you can use this. If you remember the tower incident in Victoria, a multicultural building, people have been squashing that building, and I mean, breeding filter ground for virus COVID-19. And majority of people, they don't know English there. They didn't know. What they did, they sent the Victoria police to arrest the people. People say, we didn't understood. So I agree with you, Michael. Should be done more on that field as well.
Yeah, and a lot of those people in those towers came from fairly oppressive countries where they had a natural fear and distrust of those in power, and to not be culturally sensitive to them, you know, the impact must have been magnified to the nth amount. So with this next election, we seem to have gone colours. We've got teals, we've got greens, we've got red, we've got blue. I notice Ian's is black and mine's purple, which I'm not advocating violence, but that's the color of black eye goes. Hopefully we can, inflict a black eye on the status quo, not metaphorically, not literally.
Yeah.
The colors associated with, but the ballot that this one is going to be, it's going to be huge. I think the polling booths, the actual cubicles are going to have to be extended so you can fold them out. Is this a good thing or is this chaos?
It depends on whether it's being engineered. So if so what we're told is that in the upper house, so the Legislative Council, the big ballots are because they're engineering the number of independent minor parties, etc. And then there's a whole bunch of deals that are done between them for the way the preferences will flow, which goes back to your analogy. When someone says, well, I'm going to vote for the Save the Rabbit Party because I like rabbits, then they don't know. There might only be 50 people, but those votes could go down through a system where they accumulate with another minor party that is, I eat rabbits. Okay. And you don't know. And what happens is if that's the last one in place, because of the way the upper house is different to the lower house in terms of the votes, because the preferences go to people and they end up in one spot. But you can end up with someone on a very small primary vote, ending up with a seat in the upper house.
Yeah,
and
we saw that in the last election with less than 1% of the vote actually ending up in Parliament, in power, and
I'm told there is a man that knows how to do this and does it extremely well. And I'm also told that he sells this service. So if you get a seat because he's done these deals for you, it costs you $50,000 or $60,000. Now that's got to be outlawed. You cannot be selling a seat in Parliament. I'm not sure if Mario is that will ring a chord with Mario, because
listen, I just I'm sorry guys to just say, I'm not born in this country, right? And I come from different environment. And for me to listen these things is like a 70s and 80s, right? Communism. Literally, I can't understand. This is democratic country. And in a country like this, I'm listening to what you say to me. I can sell my seat for $50,000 to $60,000. I mean, is that even possible? But Michael, on your account, what you said, how many colors are represented in elections, I will not be surprised that Premier Daniel Andrews announced 7 days prior to the elections to say it's online elections only to avoid possible incidents. That's you should guys be worried about online voting.
That's interesting you say that. That so far, Mario, that hasn't and won't happen because Australia is very used to turning up at a ballot box, putting their number in the box. You made me think of something else. Oh yeah, so there's a saying that goes, I've forgotten who it's from, that says, if you sleep in a democracy, you will wake up in a dictatorship.
Absolutely. And Victoria demonstrated this, yes, absolutely.
And that's why we are there. We really are there to make sure, because it's a case of I finally woke up. One day I just said, stop complaining about all this, Ian. Stop telling everybody why it's wrong. Go out and do something about it.
Exactly. And that's why I decided to get in, especially doing this show. We criticize a lot, but criticism builds nothing. And it's easy to sit here and point out what's wrong, but part of journalism is holding those in power to account. Part of opposition shouldn't be barracking against them. It should be barracking for them or trying to push them to do better. So while we may not be happy with the current state of the government, a lot of people are saying, but the choice is something that's less good. Well, those in opposition can't actually do anything, but I don't think they've iterated what they're going to do differently or better, or what the other side should be doing. They've just been saying what they shouldn't be doing. Whereas, here in my electorate of Eureka, it's so bleeding obvious what needs to happen. And it's so confusing as to why it hasn't. We're stuck between two biggest cities after Melbourne, Geelong and Ballarat, and we seem to be missing out on that. We've got Melton, which everyone's going crazy over, where ours stops. So we've got Bacchus Marsh, we've got Mirrabul Shire through to Golden Plains. I'm sorry for the electoral plug, but our roads, our infrastructure, we don't even have an electrified train system. And then we hear about free public transport in the city, and they want to run our the AusNet transmission lines from the wind farm through 190 kilometres through to the city, through our farmland. 50% of all potatoes grown in Victoria, and look at me, I love a potato, and they want to run these overhead transmission lines rather than undergrounding. And the only thing they state is cost. And we look at the blowouts and the cost overruns and the money that the Auditor General finds has been misspent on advertising, and yet they tell us in our community that we don't matter. So, you know, we matter in the West. And Ian, your point about integrity, this is a non-negotiable. This is the foundation for whatever party, whatever agenda, whatever ideology you believe in. Integrity must be the cornerstone.
Yes, it must.
Yeah.
And we have to hold people in public office to a higher standard. You know, this idea that you can have a man that stands up and says, I'm sorry, I forgot, I'm sorry, I forgot. It just doesn't cut it. You know, there needs to be an inquiry one day into all of that. And if it was one error, we can all accept that. Maybe two. But when you get to the level of incompetence, corruption, and negligence of this bloke, yeah, you just can't. You can't let him get away with it. And I honestly hope that the people of Mulgrave see that, understand that, and you know what? Just vote against him this time. Let's just get him out, and then I don't mind what happens. Labor can win, Liberals can win. I don't care who wins. We just need to get this out, because if we leave this festering, our children are going to have a very damaged democracy, if not something worse.
Yeah. All right. We're going to leave it on that. That's a strong point to finish on. So Jack Curran, if anyone can, Jack can, and Ian Cook, best of luck with the campaign. Remember, vote one, Ian Cook, Mulgrave, black is Ian's colour. So you know, I hope you're using Back in Black as your campaign song.
I know you're going to finish up. The reason we have no colour is because it's not about right or left. So it's not Labor or Liberal. So we don't want a colour. That's why we've got that. You may see some of my posters down in Springvale. They will have colour. The Chinese don't like black, so we and nor do the Vietnamese. We may have red and gold down on some of our stuff down there, which I was advised to do. Apart from that, by the way, Michael, you probably will have to now say written and authorised by Michael Ray.
Yes, sorry, yeah. Well, actually, written by my wonderful Smarter Than Me partner, authorised by Michael Ray. I can't take credit for anything clever that comes out of my mouth, Ian. And Mario Beeks, as always, our resident expert, author, and all-round great bloke. Thanks so much for your time, guys, and we'll reconvene for next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you later.